Hey everyone, we're gonna try this again. Hopefully there's audio this time. I'm not sure what happened with the first video. So what I wanted to do was kind of bring this together and kind of cover some of the tips and tricks that I've learned just by playing the game recently. Again, I'm a beginner. This is going to be catered towards beginners, but anything I can share and help from what I've learned, I think it's going to be beneficial for everybody, and that's the whole reason why Trainer and I wanted to create this league, is to have a beginner-friendly league. We can learn and grow with each other, share feedback, share tips and tricks that you guys go through, and hopefully make the whole society as a whole grow together. So the first thing I kind of wanted to cover is coaching adjustments. So one thing I've noticed this year compared to last year's, and Madden in particular too, coaching adjustments you can now do and set up outside of the game, which is game changing because you no longer have to do it on the fly before your plays. You can have a default base setup before you even get into the game, which is fantastic. So to get in there, you're just going to go down to settings, go to game settings, and navigate over to coach adjustments. So here's some of the coach adjustments that I have set up as default, and then what I use is macros on top of it to make any adjustments that I need. So currently I only use 2 macros. But now that I've played it a little bit more, I'm going through and the season's actually officially kicking off, I'm going to start creating more macros that I can use in specific scenarios and situations. But I just wanted a base defensive scheme that I can use and get comfortable with before actually making individual adjustments. So first thing is on offense. My tempo is default to normal. Deep pass, intermediate pass, and blocking are set to balance. My auto pass protection right now is set to base, and then I'll make adjustments as I read the defense. Untarget user defenders off, ball carriers conservative. I'm not a scrambling QB, but when I do need to get outside the pocket really quickly, I want as much help as possible. So I have my wide receiver help scrambling QB set to aggressive. And then zone window awareness I have turned on. This is game changing this year, guys, that I've found. In previous football games that I've played, specifically Madden and College Football 26, with it defaults when it comes to like crossing routes. So when I say crossing route, I mean like slants, post routes, drag routes, anything that's crossing from one side of the field to the other. When you're matched up against zone defense, these receivers will go through the zones, and I find myself, specifically when this is turned off, if I pass it, when they're in the center of the zone, they keep going through the zone, which lets the defender catch up to the ball and actually get it to either pass it, deflect it, or even catch it for a pick. With this being turned on, what will happen is as they're transitioning and going through from zone to zone, they'll actually slow down in that when they're crossing the zone, allow you time to actually zip it in there at that point and get a good catch. So this is a game-changing feature that I recommend you guys turn on. For defense, for our base setup, I have the defensive play call set to on. For the auto flip corner matchups, I have set by overall. Default on the motion response, default balanced aggression, balanced gap integrity. Being that a lot of the users that I've played and have seen play the game, they are very heavy on the RPO runs and RPO passes. So I like to play aggressive on the bubbles. And what that means is like my hard flats and those bubble areas at that point that I want those covered as much as possible. So where it really limits the gain. Even if they do end up getting a good catch at that point, I have defenders there to kind of get a good immediate stop as long as they get, as long as they get the tackle. Break tackles in this game is ridiculous. But anyway, so option read key I have set to conservative. The option pitch key I have set to aggressive. RPO read and RPO pass key are both set to conservative. Strip ball and tackling are both conservative, and then our zone depths are all set to default because we will use macros going forward to change these depending on the situation. And then lastly on this one, I have ball hawk set to aggressive. For coverage strategies, again, I just wanted to put this as a base. This is what's worked so far for me, and then I use macros and different adjustments while I'm in game. But my zone strategy is set to default. Plaster is set to conservative, which is default, and then the plaster trigger is out of pocket and time. Plaster time is default. I have roll coverage set to highest overall, and then flats, curls, and hooks as a base set to default right now. Default for man coverage, stack, and bunch. Cover 3, I have stacks at the default, and then bunch and trips set to skinny. Cover 4, the stack is set to default, the bunch is bingo, trips is default, and then I have solo cut on both quarters checks. Everything else on cover 4 is set to default. And then cover 6, I have the stack set to default, I have the bunch and bingo, and then the trip set to stubby. So those are my base defensive adjustments that I have before I go into any game. When I mention custom macros, this is again new to College Football 27, so there's been a lot of playing around with and learning different macros. And what's nice about the macros is when you're playing specifically on defense, you have to do all your custom adjustments on the fly. Back in previous games, you'd have to hold R1, set your zone pass, that point, as far as whether you're guessing for pass or run or outside or inside. And then you'd have to press triangle to set the actual linebacker and coverage adjustments, whether you want to cover over the top or underneath. And then you'd have to adjust your actual line, whether you want to pinch or spread your linebackers or pinch, spread, left, right on your D-line. All that can now be done on the fly with 2 buttons using macros, and it automatically sets everything up in one go. So it just makes it a lot easier when you're doing these adjustments. So to get to macros, we're going to go to create and share, and then go down to custom adjustments. Again, like I said, I only use 2 macros right now, but I'll create more, and then as I create more, I will be glad to post what macros I use and give it to you guys in the Discord and make another video about this later. But again, I just wanted a base of something to get comfortable with and more familiar with as we get started. So my default that I have set up is a cover nickel, and then when I'm in red zone, I switch to a Texas Mabel. So my cover nickel, again, everything's just default from our custom adjustments are already done in the game at that point, so there's not much really I have to change. There's just a couple things that I want differently than what they provide in the normal adjustments. So on my cover nickel, I have the QB contain set to both, and what that means, the outside defensive linemen are going to go straight down and contain the QB to the pocket. The other changes I have on here is my stunts. I have a left tom 2-man on this one, and really that's because I play heavy to prevent runs up the middle. It does burn me a lot on the outside, but that's when I really have to focus on playing aggressively to the run with my user. But I really want to this has worked well for me, having the left tom 2-man stunt set up for my base. Scrolling down, the next thing I have is ball hawk set to aggressive automatically, and then my zone drop flats are defaulting to 10. Everything else is left alone. And I believe that is the only adjustment that I have added for my base. Oh, I take that back. My slot cornerback 1 is on a hard flat block. That's the last adjustment I have on this macro. Just going through just to verify, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the last one. Yeah, it was. Okay, and then on my Texas Mabel, again, this is what I use when I'm in the red zone. So I have guest play defaulted to pass, always in the red zone. And this is really just to prevent anything to the corners, anything straight into the end zone. I never guess run due to RBOs heavily get used in the red zone. And if you guess run, all those bubbles just fall apart. So I have it set in the red zone to guess pass, regardless if I know they're running a run play or not. And then just really rely on my defensive line and my linebackers to hold the run plays and hold the runner to not get as many yards as best as possible. Other adjustments that I have on here is defensive line is set to spread. And then I have a Texas 4-man as my stunt by default in the red zone. Far as my drop assignments go, I have my zone drop set to 20. This, again, really helps coverage in the end zone for any passes that end up going in there. My zone drop curls are at 5. And let's get down. And then I know I had a couple adjustments from here. So both cornerback 1 and 2 are on cloud flats. I have slot cornerback 1 and 2 set to curl flats. And then my free safety and strong safety are set to deep halves. Again, I'm just trying to prevent any touchdown plays as best as possible in the red zone is all this is set up for. And I think that was it. So those are the only macros, again, that I use for right now until we get more through the season. I want to play around with it. Again, I want us to create more based on situations that I'm seeing. But these are the two base ones that I just wanted to use, put in play, and get comfortable with. So now that we're gone over macros and gone over the custom adjustments, we're actually going to get into training now, and I'm going to go over some tips and tricks that have helped me. We'll start on offense and then switch to defense. Skill level set to All-Americans. That's what we're going to be going up against anyways for this league for Jurassic. So I want that to be the base default settings for now. And then we're going to get in here to practice mode. Okay, so when in practice mode and on the field at that point, what's nice about this is there's no play clock, so you can really dive into practicing hot routing, practice your adjustments, get a good look at your reads. Typically when I play, I'm usually in gun and I'm usually in my tight Y off. That's one of my favorite formations, playing with the Huskies. So you'll see me run out of this formation a lot. Now, that being said, there is some cool things and features in here that are new this year that can kind of help deceive the defense on what you're reading. And the first thing is your shifts. And what I mean by shifts is if you like being out of a formation, specifically in tight Y off, and you want to throw them off because you're in that formation a lot, you can change the shift default. And what that means is it's going to be in a one formation that's different than what you're actually in. And then when you press X to hike the football, it's actually going to go into your actual formation. And so typically when I'm out of two different formations. I'm in a single back mode, which is I'm in bunch X nasty usually when I run single back formation. And then usually when I'm in gun, I'm in tight Y off. Those are usually the two that I kind of play around in. And I'll deviate from that a little bit as the game goes on if I'm noticing that people are picking up on it. But these are the two main ones that I'm out of. So what I'd like to do, because I play out of those, is I'll switch my shift to single back bunch X nasty. So that way when I immediately get onto the field, I'm in a single back formation. Then when I press X, it moves into a gun formation to kind of just throw them off. And so what that looks like is, so the play I'm doing is in tight Y off. I'm using flood drive, but my shift is in that single back. So when I select the play, I'll click random play for defense, you can see I'm in the single back formation. So when I look at this, I'm looking at what the defense is running, what play they called as far as their formation goes. And then what I can do is I can press X, and then now I'm in my gun formation that I'm actually playing. Again, this is just trying to deceive them just a little bit, a new feature to kind of just deceive it as best as possible. So really cool feature there, and you can play around with different formations when you're on these shifts at that point. Another cool thing is when you do these shifts, let's say you like the way that defense is lined up against your current one and you don't want to switch to that gun. If you audible by pressing square, it's going to show you audibles within the single back formation by default, the one that you're in. So if I like this formation that I'm in, and let's say I want to run it instead of pass it, I can just default to triangle, and now I'm in a run play in the formation that I came out in rather than doing the gun formations shift. So a really cool feature there at that point, that you can do that without, you know, really good use of customization for that. So now that we're in here, so yeah, and that's really the two biggest the key changes that came out this year, is doing shifts and then audibling within the shift as well, which has been fantastic. So I kind of want to cover a little bit about pass protection and run protection, and kind of go over that a little bit before we start moving into hot routing. So when you're looking at pass protection in particular, like I said, when we did our custom adjustments outside of the game, right, I told you we set it to base, but we can change that depending on how defense is lined up, right? So right now I see on square there's a defensive lineman, looks like he may be blitzing, right? And the guy on the right is probably blitzing as well. So the base would potentially pick it up at that point, but I want to be prepared just in case, because what I'm seeing right now is I see 3 receivers on the right and the 1 on the left. So what I want to do is I want to give myself most protection as possible on the weak side where there's more defenders than there is offense. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and hold L2. Oh, I'm sorry, it's L. Crap. What is it? I thought it was L2. Is it not going to work now? It is L2. My L2 is not working. Oh, it's because I'm in there. Ha ha! I'm a dummy. I'm a dummy. It's because I'm still in the shift. Sorry, guys. So, but you're out of the shift. So now that I'm looking at this, right, I see more on the right now than the left now that I'm actually in here. So I'm actually going to do a full slide right. And what we're going to do is you're going to hold L2 to do your shifts. And what I want to show you is right now you can see the red lines is who they're matched up against right now. But if I do a full slide to the right, to the weaker side, you can now see that they've transitioned to the right. And what I'm guesstimating, right, just by looking at this, is the defender that's on the left closest to number 2, I think he's going to follow number 2. So I'm going to put more protection on the right-hand side, just give me as much time as possible. So I want to line up my protection on my weaker side just to give me as much time as possible to get this done, which, see, he dropped back, so that's what I wanted. So that's why we do that. So that's what you can do as far as the slide. You can see your matchups, and they change at that point. And if I want to do a half slide, same thing. So let me get into my formation so I'm not messing it up. Half slide, same thing. So you can see the right side is definitely now the weak side. So I'm going to do a half slide to the right. And now you can see that that guy's covered now. Just again, I just want to give myself as much time as possible in the pocket to put up a good play. So those are some basic pass protections and kind of what they look like. Let's get into a run play, and let me walk over a little bit about double teaming. So double teaming is basically setting your offensive lineman to assign them to double team a defensive lineman to kind of help you give some gap and give you more opportunity to give you a gap. So when you do a double team, you're going to go ahead and hold L2 and then flick the right stick down to double team. You're going to see this plus sign icon that you can then use your left stick to cycle between the defensive lineman guys. And what I want to do is I want to figure out where is most likely based off my run play. So right now I'm running to the right but close to the center. So what I want to do is I want to double team the center as much as possible. Again, just create as much of a gap as possible. And what this should do is my very left offensive lineman is going to pick up the left guy. My center and the guard to the left of him should pick him up. And then 56 and 74 should pick up the other guy, leaving me a good, decent hole, in theory, right, to get through. And they're going to double team that one. It's exactly what I wanted. So again, it just creates more opportunities to create some gaps. Another thing about gaps when you're running these run plays, right, a lot of people, specifically myself in my early days, I was a stickler for immediately, as soon as I got the ball, holding down the right trigger to give me the acceleration boost. Do not do that in any of these games. And the reason being is because as soon as you press right trigger or R2, when you have the ball, the defenders immediately get a boost to outbreak and break away from your offensive guards. So I wait until I'm in the gap or see a gap and then use my acceleration boost to then push through the line. And so I strongly encourage you guys to just practice that and play with that. But do not immediately hold right trigger with your runner back as soon as you get the ball. Wait for yourself to see a gap, then press that trigger so you can get that acceleration boost through the gap. So just a helpful hint there. So we're going to go ahead and double team the center. Wait for the gap. Good plays there. So there you go. There's some helpful tips and tricks for protection. So now we can go ahead and get into a little bit of hot routing and kind of what that looks like, what you can do, custom stems, and then actually reading the defense to determine kind of whether they're in man or if they're in zone. So let's start with determining whether they're in man or zone. The easiest way that I found to determine whether in man or zone is by motioning your receivers. And how you can do that is circle on PlayStation or B on Xbox. But if you press and hold circle, you can see now that your icon for your user is now on one of your receivers. And you can press circle and cycle through your players, right? And it's not showing anything right now because I'm, again, as you're aware, I'm in the shift. So unfortunately, I have to get into my actual formation. And then I can hold it. And what you're going to notice is now you see these blue arrows on the outside of receivers that can be motioned, right? And so what I like to do is I usually use this as my tight ends because it's the easiest way to determine on whether or not they're in zone or man. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to motion him with my left thumbstick to the left or the right, but in this case I'm going to go to the left and see if the defender follows. If that defender follows, they're in man. If that defender doesn't follow, you're in zone, right? And so in this case, they're in zone. And the reason why is even that safety moved because it's just him doing coverage. And he's just helping with the coverage at that point. But you can see the linebacker that was lined up against my tight end, that star, the guy with the star on him, he's the one I'm looking at. Did he move or did he not? And that tells me that they're in zone. Again, another way you can tell, you can do the same thing with this receiver, right? So you can see how they all shifted. That's how you know they're in zone. Shift them back. If it was one defender following that receiver, they'd be in man. And then you can really hot route against it to determine kind of where they're going to go. So when you're in zone, drag routes and flood plays, your runner back to the flat, is really going to be beneficial against zone defenses because what you're looking for is soft spots. You're looking for the shifts between the zones, and you want to hit your receivers when they get into those soft spots. And what I mean by soft spots is an area that's uncovered by the defenders. So one soft spot right now, if you look at X, is going to be, you can see just to the left of the hash mark right on his line, there's going to be a soft spot there if that middle linebacker that's closest to him is not going to move over to the right. If he stays in there, that soft spot's going to be right there. So that's what we're looking for. So we're going to do our stint now. We're going to double check to see if we're in man or if we're in zone. No one followed, so you know we're in zone. So we're just looking for the soft spots. That's all we're looking for. Who's the untargeted defender? And that's what's kind of key inside and working with zone against zone defenses at that point is, you know, with zone defense, specifically if one of them is blitzing on the linebacker, which 9 times out of 10 the user is going to be the one that you have to look at and what position they're playing. 9 times out of 10 the user is going to be one of the middle linebackers, either the guy who's got the M above him or the guy to the right of the M that's got the flame above his head. 9 times out of 10 that's who the user is going to play, is one of those 2 linebackers. The average user, I should say, is going to use one of them. So I look at those 2 specific positions and see kind of where they're moving to at that point, because he has to pass off to the zone. He's not going to follow to the other defender, because if he does, then that leaves one of our guys undefended, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for who's going to be undefended. So drag and slants and posts work really well against zone defenses. Corners, bubbles, and smokes work really well against man. The problem with smokes, though, is that point is you have to give yourself separation. And that's where hot routing is really going to help you guys on against man defense, because it helps you with that separation. So I'm hoping one of these plays they're going to call is going to be man defense. They're still in zone. I love that they just love doing zones. So 2 hot route. When you're on this at that point, hot routing is going to be triangle. Exit out of this. Let me go ahead and get out of the shift just to make it easy, guys. Get out of the shift. So we're going to do mesh spot's a good one. Whenever I run this play, I'll usually hot route 1 or 2 guys on mesh plays anyways. Oh, crap. I forgot to... Jeez Louise, guys. Sorry. It's late and I'm tired. Change shift to default. There we go. There you guys can see this. Okay, so when I'm in mesh, right, again, I want to see, are they in zone or are they in man? They're in zone. See, I know no defenders again followed me. So I know my drags are going to be good. And then what I want to do is I want to create a soft spot with circle. And so the way we can do that, we can do that one of 2 ways. The first thing I look at, usually I'll put him on a post, which triangle, you can select your receiver, which is circle in this case, and then flick up on the right stick to post. The problem is, right, is that post is 10 yards out before he cuts. And what I want to do is I want to custom stem him down 1, because I want him to cut sooner, because I want him to cut between the defender who I'm lined up against and that middle linebacker that's got the M, who's identified as the Mike right now. I want him to cut between those 2 to pull that linebacker away from the drag. That way, if he sticks to the drag and comes down, circle's going to be wide open. But if he pulls back and stays in that cloud following circle, that drag's going to be wide open. So the way we custom stem is, now we got circle on a post, we're going to press triangle, circle again to highlight him again, and hold L1 to do a custom stem. And then you're going to use your D-pad buttons up and down to change where you want him to cut. So default in this play, right, for a post is 10 yards from this point, but I'm going to put him at a 5 because, again, I want him to cut sooner, but not as sharp of an angle as a slant. And this is again one of those things too, where just the more you play, the more I've seen it at that point. And I'll show you the difference. So this is a post custom stem down from the 5-yard line. If I was just to put him on a slant, you're going to see a much sharper cut there, and you can see it's much sharper cut, and you actually have you're going to run right into that middle linebacker zone, which is not what I want. It's not what I want, because that's more cause for a pick, and it's not going to pull that linebacker or give an opportunity for us to pull the linebacker closer to circle to give us that drag. Or if he does, it's not going to create enough space for him to go to the drag and leave us that open. So I'm going to put circle back on a post, custom stem him down to the 5 yards, and then let them go. And all I'm looking at right now is the guy who's identified as the Mike. Is he going to stay back and sit on circle? And if he is, then I'm going to hit triangle or X, who's my 2 drag routes. Triangle or X at that point, most likely triangle in this case, because he's going to be pulled to circle. If he sticks down to triangle, all number 3 has to do is beat that guy who's matched up against. And if they're in zone, which they are, he's not going to carry the zone. He's going to give it off to that linebacker. And if that linebacker sits to the drag, we're going to be open for a pretty decent play. So all we're going to look at is that Mike. What's he going to follow? Is he going to follow circle or is he going to follow triangle? So he followed circle. So we're going to hit triangle, right? That's what we want. That's what hot routing has for its capabilities at that point is you pick your 2 reads. Again, I'm a beginner. I can't do all the reads on the field for all 4 receivers. I mean, some people can, and that's amazing for them. I am not there yet. I pick my 2 main reads that I know are going to be open. So in this case, for mesh, in this specific play, my first read is circle, my second read is triangle. So all I'm looking for at that point is separation and who's going to have the separation. If circle's covered, I'm throwing triangle. If triangle's covered, I'm throwing circle. So that's all I'm looking at. So again, we're going to put him on a post, custom stem him down, and I'm just looking at that linebacker and seeing who he's going to follow. Is he following the circle or is he following triangle? See how he came? Big play there. So really useful for hot routes at that point by looking at those reads and kind of judging what that defender is going to do. So those are 2 of the big ones that you'll see me do on those, and that's custom stemming. And you can custom stem from anything but a slant. So if I put circle on a curl, which now he's on a curl, right? You can press triangle, circle again, hold the L1, and you can have him cut back however you want. So if I want to mimic a streak, right? So if I wanted to think that defensive to think that I'm on a streak, but have him come back, which is what a curl does. He comes back and stops. So default on a curl, right, is again 10 yards. But let's say if I want him to go to the 20-yard mark and then curl back at that point. Again, I just want to see what he's going to do. He's going to sit there and then he's going to curl. Again, I didn't read the guy that came back, but that's that idea. That's where custom stem comes in. Again, you cannot do it on a slant. You cannot custom stem on a slant, anything but a slant. But you can do it and drags. But any streak, post, or curl at that point, you can custom stem that, which is fantastic. Okay, what else can we do? Let me get into. Let me line up here. And trainer hates me for this because I am big, and again, I'm giving away secrets, just so you guys know, so you guys can play against me and know, like, oh, that's what he's doing. I see it now. I am a big stickler on streaking my tight end. I am big on streaking tight ends. And again, this does one of 2 things. 1, it creates separation. And 2, if they do not guard my tight end, I get an easy play. And so when I streak it, again, I just want to try and create separation. So if I'm going to streak my tight end, which is DeGraff in this case, so triangle, X, and then flick left up on the left thumbstick, you can see he's streaked. And so all I'm trying to do is create separation between the guy I'm lined up against, that middle linebacker, and have that safety come back. So what I'm going to do instead to kind of help give me the most options happen, my first read is going to be X. Because I streaked him. My second read is going to be circle, but instead of him coming in as a slant like he is, I'm going to put him on a corner because I want to separate those defenders. And then all I'm going to do from this one, because again, I just want to see what that defender is going to do, is I'm going to put my runner back on a Texas from this play. So triangle R1, and then up on the D-pad is going to put my runner back on a Texas. And again, here's the 2 things that are going to happen that I'm looking at. So the first read is that X, if that middle linebacker does not follow X and he stays down in the shell, X is going to be wide open if I hit him between that middle linebacker and that safety. It's going to be easy first down. If he follows X, my second read is going to be that corner route, because what I want to see is that safety going to cut in and help the middle linebacker with X, or is he going to cut more towards circle? And if those two are both covered, because the middle linebacker follows the streak on the tight end, that safety follows circle going to the corner, then my Texas route is my third and final read, and that's going to be open for a good 5 yard. And then if you can get a good run after catch, it's going to be good. So I'm just going to look, and my view is looking at what that linebacker is going to do. Is he going to follow X, or is he going to stay down and cover the Texas, which leaves X open? And then what's that safety in the back right going to do? Is he going to stay to the streak on X, or is he going to move more towards circle? And again, that's going to be where we're at. So let's go ahead and play it, and let's see what that defender does and see who's open. See, he played. So I'm just going to wait for that to open, even though they blitzed me there at that point. So that's all I'm looking at when I set this up. Put him on a streak, circle on a corner, oops, and then R1 on a Texas. And again, I just want to see what he does. So that's all I'm looking for, guys. So streak him, put him on a corner. And this is just, again, just a base coverage hot route that can really help you kind of create that separation and find yourself some easy soft spots. So I'm just looking at what that linebacker's going to do and what that safety's going to do, and that's going to determine what my read's going to be. So R1, I didn't get it out quick enough, but that's what I look for on those reads. When I'm in the red zone, what I find for me at that point is I'll use a lot of slants and a lot of zigs when I'm in the red zone. Because again, I just want those easy short down completions at that point, just to keep moving the chains. And especially when you're right on somewhat goal line at that point, I hate running goal line offense because it's 9 times out of 10 going to be a run, and they're guessing the run on defense, which means your linebackers are going to be stacked. There's going to be a lot of blitzing in the red zone. So I want short, quick, easy completions, either via an RPO or hot routing to quick slants and drags and zigs. So zigs are really good against zone, and out routes are really good against man. So again, when we talk about it, at that point you find out whether you're in zone or man. At that point, so you can make the determination on which one you're going to run. So what's a zig is going to do, so we're going to put circle on a zig, and now you can see his route, right? So he's going to cut in really quick like he's going to do a slant, but then immediately go to an out route to the outside. And what that's going to do is it's going to let me read what that safety's going to do. Is he going to stay back in his zone, or is he going to come down to the flat? And so that linebacker came over. But when you're in the red zone at that point, that's what you're looking for. Just quick, easy down completions. That's all we want. Quick, easy down completions. An out route when you're running on man, similar concept, but he's just going to go straight to the sideline. But with out routes, you can custom stem them. So if I just do triangle, circle, and then left stick to the right, that's going to give me an out route. And then I can triangle, circle, hold L1, and again, custom stem him where I want him to go. So let's say if I want him to go up and push that guy back so I can leave triangle on that open on the drag. Again, I'm just trying to create separation. So I'm going to push him out 10 yards on that out route and leave the drag underneath open. And again, that's going to push that safety out and allow me to hit that drag route and have that soft spot there. Really good red zone mentality at that point. All right. On the run game. Let's go ahead and do a quick run. We could do RPO runs. Just it works the same. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Sorry. Don't mind me. I need to pick. Crap. It's not what I wanted to do. Okay, plate type. What did I do? Did I actually flip sides? No, I didn't. Now I flip sides on accident. Sorry, guys. Flip sides. I'll wait for them to do one. Okay. Grass must be slick over there. Okay. So we're going to do a run. And we're going to do outside zone. That's a good one to do. Okay. Another thing when you're on runs, guys, is you can switch which way without flipping the play your runner back is going to run to. So by default, right, this HP stretch, you can see he's running to the right. So when you're actually in the formation ready to hike the ball, let's say there's more linemen on the right side, right? And so they're stacked over there specifically with that linebacker. You know, if it's a terrible example because they're not lined up. But if they were more shifted to the right and you're running right, you can actually just flick the right stick to the left or the right to change which direction that run's going to go. So in this case, I'm going to flip it left, and now you can see my linebacker is going to move to the left instead of run to the right. And again, this is really going to help if you see that mismatch on your defensive line versus your offensive line. So if you see more defenders lined up on one side and it's a run play and you're going to be running right into them, you can flick that that right stick in the opposite direction, kind of help yourself get some better opportunities to run. Let's trying to see if we can get him to do a. Oh, let me see. Yeah, perfect. See how there's more stacked to the right, so we're going to push him to the left. The other thing is on audibles, which is, again, new this year, is you can audible to any formation now, which is great. So right now, as you can see, it's in single back ace for your audibles. But if you use your D-pad left to right, you can change the formation for those audibles real quick on the fly. And you can even go into your gun sets, which is great. So if you're in single back and you need to audible real quick to gun because you're not liking where it's at, you can then just select into that formation. And then once you're in that formation, if you don't like the exact play that you're in, again, you can hot route, guys. And really help yourself get those done. Yeah, so that's, again, base overview of what I've learned from offense to kind of help you guys get this done. We're now going to switch it to defense and kind of cover that a little bit. I am worse on defense, guys, than I am on offense. So again, I'm learning just as much here as you guys. But these are just some things that I've learned and kind of help me so far. So first thing at that point is I usually play 9 times out of 10 out of my nickel defense. Again, it's up to you guys on what you guys like and want to play out of. But I like nickel defense. But there's a couple things that I do to kind of, again, shade and help show deception when I'm playing NCAA. So the first thing you do is you can do shells. Which, if you don't know what shells are, it's kind of like the shifts that we did in offense. But you stay in those shells even though it's the play. So I want to mimic, even though I'm in a nickel defense, I like shelling to cover too, because again, it just shows on the field at that point, it makes them think that you're going to cover too, but you're actually in a zone defense. So I'm going to do sim pressure. When I look at my plays for here, when I look at my plays at that point, I like to play middle linebackers, and I usually play the one that's most likely not in the bubble. So, for example, in sim pressure 3, which is the play I'm going to call, you can see that I have one linebacker, the left linebacker, on a blitz, while my right linebacker is on a bubble. Now, remember, you guys have to think that I have auto defensive play on, so that's going to switch depending on how the offense is lined up. So I just look at who's the blitzing linebacker, and that's who I'm going to use here. And here's the thing with this blitzing linebacker at that point. I trust my D-line enough to contain the QB because, again, we have those QB contained base set up. We got the stunts set up already on default. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to use that blitz to play heavy on run plays. If they pass, I'm going to help and assist that middle linebacker. So kind of show you what I mean here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that play, pick a random play for offense because I just need to know what they're going to do. I'm going to do our custom macro adjustment, which in this case you hold L1 or LB if you're on Xbox, but L1 I'm playing on PlayStation, so I'm sorry. So L1, and then you can pick your custom macros that you have. In this case, again, like I told you guys at the beginning, my base one, unless I'm in the red zone, is cover nickel. So I'm going to hit square to cover that nickel, and the only other adjustment that I do is I like to shade my bubbles underneath. Again, this is going to help you against RPOs and drag routes to prevent against those, but where it's going to bury you are posts and corners. So you really have to be cognizant of that underneath adjustment based on what they're running. If they're running a lot of posts and they're hitting you over the center, do not shade them underneath. If they're playing a lot of drag routes, shade them underneath. If they're playing a lot of RPOs, shade underneath. If they are hitting you for deep passes, do over top. Otherwise, just leave it default. But being its CPU, a lot of times at that point, they'll play more to the drags and the crossing. So I will start by shading underneath and then adjust depending on what the CPU or the user is playing on offense. So what this is going to do, you're going to see on the screen, if I press right stick and flick it down, you can see that now I have that corner in a hard flat. I have both my linebackers now in a hook curl, and then I have, can't see it because there, but the guy on the outside still in the Z zone, but the F there is going to cover that bubble. You can't see it because that's blocking, which is crazy that blocks. But anyway, so that's what I'm going to start. So first thing I'm going to do is pick the blitzing linebacker, which you see is the right side. So the right linebacker is who I'm going to be picked on, right? And then I'm going to play to the run in the blitz at that point. And if he runs, I'm going to still hit that gap, which is what we want, and trust my other defensive guys to cover any other direction. But that's my gap where I'm going to run into. If they go to a pass, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to stay and help in this bubble shell on defense and help with coverage in the zone to, again, take away any of the open potential receivers. And then when I'm also playing as a user linebacker, I look at it from an offensive perspective, and again, this can burn me as well, and it may burn others, is I look at what my main target receivers are going to be and make sure I line myself up against them. So when I'm looking at this, I'm going to play aggressive to the run because that's my blitz. That's why we do that. We cover those holes so that way we don't have any blown assignments. This time this guy's blitzing, so I'm going to cover that hole. But if they drop back to pass, I'm not going to blitz. Instead, I'm going to hold back into the zone. What a terrible block shedding there. That's awful. The guy on the right is the one who's blitzing. Left is blitzing. Those are really the only adjustments that I tend to do in game. The only other things that I will do, because again, as you see, I'm in cover 2 shell, which you can see is there tends to be some misalignments, and that's where your shifts can help come into play, right? And so shifts this year, unlike where it was previously, which was L1, now that's our macros. So they switched it to the right thumbstick. So if you flick your right thumbstick to the left, that's going to be your defensive line shifts. If you flick it to the right, that's going to be your linebacker shifts. And so that's where you can really help. So you're going to put yourself into your normal setups. And then if you see right now, there's more guys on the right than there is on the left. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and flick my defensive line and shift them to the right to cover that side just a little bit more, because that's where there's more stacked up. Now you can see, so they're in gun. We're not going to do any shifts because they're evenly matched there. What we're going to do is we're going to still play to that runner back with our user, and if they pass, we're going to stay back in the zone. All right, so when it comes to your shifts, just a little bit as well too, guys. Those are really the only shifts that I like to do. Is I'll sometimes spread my linemen and spread my linebackers if it's like 3rd and long plays or prevent plays. Again, I don't mind short routes in those type of situations if they're long downs. All I'm trying to do is create as much coverage as possible to prevent any deep routes. And so I will spread linemen, spread linebackers. Again, that's going to help prevent those over-the-top plays and over-the-top passes. But where it's going to burn you is exactly that, is if they choose run. So, and that's why they're less likely to run on a 3rd and long than they are, you know, these short downs or a 1st and 10 or whatever. You know, they're less likely to run on those long down situations. So that's when you use this. Use it sparingly. If I'm finding that on these normal situations, at that point I'll leave it default. 2nd and 10 and 2nd and 5, you know, I'll tend to pinch the line but then spread my linebackers out a little bit, just to kind of help, again, just extra coverage as best as possible. So what we'll do is we're going to flick this out and spread them, but then we're going to pinch our linebackers. There's that bubble aggressive, guys. That's what we wanted. Again, in this situation they have 3. So we're gonna spread and spread here. All you're trying to do is just eliminate the big plays. When I'm defending, wow, that's terrible. When I'm user defender, just again, some things that I've learned as well. Being that you're the extra person going on a blitz at that point, I tend to follow the other receivers as well as this extra man. So in this case, you can see we have a mismatch on the left side with number 4. Even though that one guy's in a hard flat, the other guy's in a deep zone. And so what happens is, because we're in a zone defense, guys, we have a huge soft spot there if they decide to slant in or corner out. So what I'm going to do in this situation when I see that, that's again, if you hold right trigger R2 or right trigger on Xbox, you can see your play art and see your zone set up at that point and see where everything's at. And you can look for where you could potentially get hurt the most based off where you're lined up. So I know 4 is number 4, that receiver there, is who I'm going to be watching the most. So when you're playing pass, even if they run here, I'm just going to show you guys. It's just an example. When you're playing pass and you see that misalignment, I'm still going to just bring him over just a little bit more, but I'm going to play to number 4 and just help as best as possible. So it was a run anyways. But all I'm trying to do is take away that option as best as possible. So in this case, because we got 2 guys on the right, 1 guy on the left, and most likely that tight end, who's number 23 there, is also going to be a receiver if it's a pass play. So I'm going to play more heavily on the right side and play that. Play that tight end, which exactly right. See, he's a defender. Pick. All right, when it comes to defensive plays at that point and pick, I'm not typically one to press triangle as a defender to catch. Like if it's for sure, and again, nothing's ever for sure, but if there's like the quarterback throws it right to me as if like he's hit and if he's hit as he threw the ball, and it comes out and it's like right to my defender or my linebacker at that point, I'll press triangle in that situation. And that's going to be an aggressive pick catch to try and aggressively get the ball. But if you're matched up against, if you're a user and you're matched up against a single receiver, you have less percentage chance of catching that on aggressive catch. Because at that point, it's all based on the match. If they have a higher catching ranking than you, they are going to win 90% of that time against that matchup. So I will not press triangle in those situations if it's a single defender against a single receiver in that opportunity at that point. I'm actually going to press square. And what square is going to do is it's more likely, square is a swat. You'll swat the ball the way at that point. It is a lot easier, guys, to play to a swat than it is to play aggressive to catching to go for a pick. Yes, picks are nice and picks are great. But 9 times out of 10, they can burn you really easily. So always, just again, food for thought. I usually play to a swat more than I play to a pick, unless it's guaranteed that it's being thrown at me. And so let's see if we can get him to throw the ball here, and let's see if we can try and show you what a swat looks like, or at least the animation, right? Terrible play. Anyways, similar to doing the catch plays of doing triangle, square, or X, when the ball is in the air is when the animation will register, guys. So if you press square to swat the ball before the ball is thrown, your guy's just going to dive across the screen. So make sure that the ball is in the air when you try and play that swat. Terrible soft spot. They hit me. That's where the underneath kills you guys. That was that post, and I played underneath. But that's essentially it, guys. Again, these are just some base tips and tricks that I kind of wanted to cover of what's worked and what's helped for me. Hopefully you guys can take something from this and grow with it, and use it in your own play style. the idea, like I said at the beginning of this, me and Trainer really wanted to start our own beginner league. We're in other leagues outside of Jurassic Gridiron. That's more advanced, more players with a lot more higher skill level than us. And we wanted to get it to where like we still enjoy playing with them because we have a lot of good guys and buddies that are in those leagues. But there's in those leagues when I'm playing against those skill levels, right? If I'm playing a user, I'm just automatically going in knowing I'm going to lose because the skill level is just ridiculous in that league. There's some really good users and ranked players in that league. And so I kind of wanted to Trainer and I had this idea of creating a beginner league where we could actually compete on our level because we are not advanced players. We are definitely not advanced players. But we wanted to create this environment in this Discord society at that point that really helps each other grow and really helps each other learn. And that's kind of why we wanted to put this together. And I'm hoping that this will kind of start a trend within our Discord and in our league to share best practices and share how you can grow and take that and learn from it and grow with it and really grow the society as a whole. But I'm looking forward to kicking the season off with you guys. I'm looking forward to playing with you guys and learning and growing with you and learning more about you guys, and you guys can learn more about myself and Trainer as we get to know each other. But I really hope that this was of use. I really hope that the audio is at least working in this one. It appears to be on my end again. I won't know until I actually play it after this. I'll post it again in the chat. And then once this stream ends here in just a few seconds, I'll post a link to the video with the audio so you guys can cover it and watch it back for your reference. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and hope to play with you guys here soon in the next coming weeks. All right, guys, take care.